Good morning and welcome to Sri Lanka Morning Show. We're here in our studios with Sanji Caldera, the Principal Migration Consultant of Sanji Caldera and Associates. Good morning, Sanji.
Good morning, Sunari.
There's a lot of talk about what the Minister of Immigration has recently announced regarding employer-sponsored visas. Could you tell us what the announcement was, Sanji?
Yes, recently at a press conference, the Minister announced some new policies that they are going to bring in for employer sponsorship, and specifically with the subclass 482 temporary skill shortage visa.
That's great. Are there positive announcements?
Yeah, there are certainly positive announcements. I'm happy to discuss all the pros and cons of this subclass 482 visa.
What is the 482 actually, Sanji?
Okay, so the subclass 482 visa is what we call a temporary skill shortage visa. It is a visa that an employer sponsors an employee for a certain period of time for a particular occupation to work in their organization.
Right. And what are the salaries that come with this visa? Has there been an increase?
Yes. Now, this is a talking point. We call it the temporary skill migration income level. Now, this was generally at Australian dollars 53,900 per annum plus superannuation. This has been significantly increased to Australian dollars 70,000 plus superannuation. What this means is that if you are going to sponsor a foreign employee, you have to pay a minimum of 70,000 or more. 70,000 is the minimum. If the market salary is more, you need to pay a salary more than 70,000. And there's a reason for this. The reason is they do not want to exploit overseas employees. So they want to keep the wage levels parallel to a permanent resident or a citizen of Australia.
Will the new announcement be helpful to those who are already on the 482 visa or those applying for the 482 visa, Sanji?
Yes, there is now, this is the big announcement. Now, I will talk about the laws which are present now, and this will change end of the year. The salary will have to change on the 30th of June. Now, for people who are on a subclass 482 visa, presently can apply for permanent residency after 3 years of being in the occupation, which we call the transitional basis. However, the current rules are that only people who are on temporary skill shortage visas, who are holding an occupation in the long-term skill occupation list can apply for the subclass 186 visa. Now, with this new announcement, the minister has said anyone who is on the short-term skill occupation list or long-term skill occupation list on a subclass 482 visa can apply for permanent residency, again sponsored by the employer. The big difference is in the past, once again, it was after 3 years and only for people in the medium to long-term skill occupation list. Now, it's after 2 years and anyone, whether short-term or long-term, the employer now can sponsor those employees for permanent residency. It's a big change.
What a wonderful incentive, Sanji. What is your outlook considering all of these things on employer-sponsored visas?
Look, the fact that the salary was increased, the minimum salary was increased from 53,900 to 70,000 would have some negative impacts. Certain small employers will not be able to afford certain employees at 70,000. Now, that is quite a negative. But the positive is that the employers now can attract both occupations which are on the long term and the short term with a promise that after 2 years, that at the discretion of the company, that they can sponsor those employees for permanent residency. That is a very big positive, I could say.
What are the main rules for an employer wanting to sponsor an employee on a 482 visa, Sanji?
That's a good question, Sunari. You can't, just because you want to sponsor someone, you can't simply go and sponsor a preferred employee. First, we talk about labor market testing. So they have to prove by advertising the position for 28 days on certain platforms that they could not find an Australian permanent resident or a citizen. Only when they can prove that they can then nominate the preferred employee for the subclass 482 visa. That is, and of course, with the 30th of June, 70,000 salary before superannuation has to be paid to them.
I see. All right. Thank you, Sanji. When do these new changes come into place?
Okay, as I said, the first change will come in very soon. That's on the 1st of July. Any employer nominating an employee for the subclass 482 must pay a minimum salary of 70,000 gross before superannuation. That's the first rule. The second rule is that when I was talking about that the minister announcing from 3 years to 2 years before you can apply for permanent residency, now that rule is at the moment in discussion, but it will come end of the year.
That's very valuable information for our viewers, Sanji. Thank you so much for joining us here in the studio today.
Thank you for having me here, Sunari.